My name's Chris Thomas. I am a ex-alcoholic, cocaine and crack addict. A little bit about myself. I was born in Massillon, Ohio. Family from Rhode Island. I was born into a family of users, not really drugs, mostly alcoholic. I don't want to say alcoholics. They were all drinkers. Some were alcoholics, like my mother, my uncle, and my grandfather. My grandmother and my father, they drank, but it never took a hold of them. Some say that the disease is hereditary. Some say that it's a choice. Being that I grew up in a family as such, I automatically took to alcohol when I was in my early teens. Growing up, when I grew up and around the people that I grew up with, alcohol was a big deal. We thought that we were really cool. We thought, we're 12, 13 years old out there getting drunk, and we thought that, we were rebels or whatever it may be. But at that point in time, I believe I was probably hooked, but didn't even know. As I got older into my later teens, in high school, going out on dates, playing sports after sporting events, there was always parties or house parties, or there was, a gathering of us. We would go out and there would be a keg of beer, or, wine coolers were big back in them days. And I found myself drinking even more, even underage, of the age of 16, 17, 18 years old. I found myself drinking even more. And looking back on it now, I'm sure that if I wasn't an alcoholic, I was well on my way. As I got older, into my early 20s, when I was old enough to drink, being able to go into the bars, being able to go to places where it was acceptable, parties and such, being able to buy it in stores, I found myself functionally, but always craving that drink. Now, back up a little bit on the story. When I was growing up, my mother and my father worked at the Hoover Company that made the Hoover vacuum sweepers, and they would always, they had a bar that everyone would go to on Fridays and Saturday nights. And being that I was little, they would take me with them. And I can remember going into the bars, and everybody, when I would show up, everybody would know my name, and they would throw me quarters to play pinball or video games and such. And so that atmosphere, that whole aura of what I was in and being accepted by everyone, it was addicting. And I took that with me in my subconscious mind as I got older. I believe that not only at that point in time was I addicted to the alcohol, but I was also addicted to the atmosphere, to the camaraderie of my friends and of the people, of whatever came with the party lifestyle. And I believe that the addiction of being addicted to the atmosphere, the substance abuse actually took over. Later in life, as I was in my mid to late 20s, I got into the car business. I started selling cars, and I did that for a good 15 years. And that is where I was introduced into drugs. And at this point in time, I do believe that I was pretty much addicted to alcohol. But as drugs came in, now I always smoked pot, and I always smoked marijuana. And I never really thought twice of it. But when I was introduced to cocaine, that was what that's what just took over me, was the cocaine. And drinking never stopped. As time went on, and the addiction got worse, I got to the point to where I didn't care about work. I didn't care about friends. I didn't care about family. I was married at the age of 27, and then my son growing up, I was never there for him. I was never there because I put the drugs first. I put alcohol and I put cocaine and I put meth, and I've tried pretty much every drug that there is. And I kind of laugh at myself these days because I consider myself a professional drug user because I knew what I liked and what I didn't like. But as my son got older into his late teens, he started seeing, what kind of a person I was, and he started to distance himself from me. My own family, my mother passed away, my grandparents are gone, my uncle is even gone. So all I have is my son and my father. When they started to distance themselves from me, is when I really realized that I had a problem. And at that point, I was so far gone, I wanted to stop. Now I can't. I just can't stop. I was so bad at one point that I would start a new job and I would work for maybe a month and gather a few paychecks and then quit just to go blow my money on drugs and alcohol. I had my driver's license. I didn't have my driver's license. I had them and I didn't. That's how my life was. I had no money at one point. I was living with my father, no job. I'm wearing rags for clothes, holes in my shoes, and I thought that this was acceptable, even though I looked at myself and knew that the way I was raised, the way I grew up, the life that I had before I lost everything in drugs, I knew that that wasn't the person that I was. I knew I wanted more, and I knew I could have more. I've been to prison because of drugs and alcohol, in and out of prison over the last 10 years, 3 times, and every time thinking that I've learned my lesson only to get out and not even be out a week and start again. And this was a repetitive cycle over and over again for 10 years to this last time where I have gotten in trouble. By the grace of God, I didn't go to prison. I was put on probation. And I had a probation officer who was sympathetic, I suppose, to my situation. And he gave me chance after chance after chance. And I kept breaking the rules. I would go to jail for stealing because I didn't have any money, because I wanted to get high. So instead of going to work or spending the money on drugs, I would go out stealing. I would go to Walmarts and steal TVs. I would go and steal cases of beer and give it to the drug dealers so I can get crack or cocaine or whatever it is that I was on that night. So this probation officer, he gave me the ultimatum. He said, either you're going to go to jail or back to prison, because I was looking at 3 years. Either you're going to go back to prison or you are going to go to rehab. And at this point in time, I was praying to God for a year or so before that, because I wanted to stop, like I said, and I couldn't stop. I've never had a situation in my life where I really didn't have control over me. And here I have something is control over me that is it's like non-existence. It's not like a boss is controlling over you. It's not like your girlfriend or your husband or whatever is controlled over that. You are being controlled by them. I am controlled by something that isn't, I guess you could say it isn't visible, if you will. So I'm praying to God, and I'm at wit's end. I want to stop, but I can't. And it was my addiction was really weird. I live with my father. My father would be home during the week, Sunday through Friday. Fridays and Saturdays he would go to his girlfriend's house, and on Fridays and Saturdays is when I would use. But I could go all week long and not pick up, not drink, not use, nothing like that. But on Fridays when he would go, it was just like something clicked on my brain that, I would just go crazy. And no matter what the little bit of money that I had, I would spend on drugs. And if it didn't last the whole weekend, now I'm out, like I said, I'm out stealing TVs, I'm out stealing alcohol, whatever it is it took to to satisfy my addiction. Well, during one of them times, I was coming out of Walmart with a TV, and I got tackled in the parking lot by the police, and I went to jail. I went to jail for one night. They let me out the next day, and I had to go see my probation officer, and that was when he gave me the ultimatum. He said, either you're going to go to prison or you're going to go to rehab. And of course, I picked rehab, and because I prayed for this. And it's funny how the Lord works. You know, He doesn't just give you rehab, or He doesn't just give you a cure. You go through things, and the steps that I went through to get me to the point to where now I'm going to rehab. Now, I've been to rehabs before. I've been to rehabs that were court ordered. So, the counselors there's more like a job to them, where, they know you're there as an alternative to prison. So you just have to do their programs, and then you get out, and then you're on probation. Well, this is a full-fledged rehabilitation center that I went to, and you could tell the difference in the counselors. You could tell the difference in the actual clients that are in there, because that's not a court order. People are going in there because they want to stop, and they knew they had a problem. So I was surrounded by, not only great counselors with education, and you could talk to them, and they gave you the actual answers that you're looking for, or they could find out if they didn't know. But you're also surrounded by the clients of the people who are very sick, and they want to quit doing what they do. So I was in there for I was in there for a little over 100 days. And after a little over 3 months, I got out, and I was still on probation. And whatever it was clicked in my head. Whatever it was, it worked. I never picked up another crack pipe after that. February of 2020 was when I got out of rehab. November 23rd of 2019 is when I went in, and the last time I used would have been the 20th of November 2019. But I still continued drinking because I thought that I had won a victory. I won a war. I won the war over addiction. I'm not using anymore, but I can still drink. I was wrong. It didn't lead me to use again, but it was still controlling my life. I couldn't hold a job. I was calling off work. I still wasn't functional. My money, instead of going to drugs, was now going to alcohol. I wasn't being productive. But by the grace of God, I met someone who has totally changed my life. And through my sobriety, now I've been sober for, it will be a year off alcohol this coming July. And the things that I have accomplished since my sobriety, I'm healthier. I have a stable job that I now work, that I don't miss work. I have goals. I set myself goals. I have a loving relationship that I've never had before, and even if I did have it before, I either didn't care or they didn't care, or something went wrong and I was waiting. That just went. Now I have reason and I have purpose. I have a drive inside of me to not only stay sober, but now to give back to the community. Coming as I thought I was a hopeless addict, that I was going to die in an alley somewhere of an overdose, to now having the best job I've ever had, the best loving relationship that I've ever been in. I have relocated from Ohio to just outside of Chicago, and I started up a whole new life, and I have never been happier in my life. So by the grace of God and the steps that the Lord has put me through to get to this point is a blessing, and it's a miracle. So that's my story that I can think of. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.